Jeffro from 2X Garage. Well, I'm back at Jimmy's, and we've been working on my friend John's 5.2 liter Magnum V8 engine. It's a Chrysler. It's no longer going to be 5.2 liters, which is 318 cubic inches. It's going to actually be 390 cubic inch stroker. That's not the point of this video. As you've seen, we've gone through the machining process, boring, honing, all that type of stuff. Well, we're at a point right now where we've already assembled the pistons on this, and we've already got the cam bearings in, freeze plugs, everything ready to go with that. Before I take this engine back to John so we can get it assembled, we need to file fit the rings. As you guys know, when you buy your pistons and your stroker kits and all that, it does come with rings. In a previous video, he showed us honing it a certain way to the application of these rings. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to file fit rings. It's not a hard process, a little time consuming, just got to pay attention to what you're doing. And you know what, guys, at the end of the day, once you're done, you'll have the right ring end gap so these things seal properly. With that, I'm going to show you the first step of this. Be right back. All right, well, the first step of filing the piston rings is one, you need to know the bore of your cylinder, which you should if you just machined it. This came with the actual pistons here itself, and on the general clearance guide, if you look, it has all these different applications here of your build. Obviously, this is for a Jeep. The thing we chose closest for it was street towing. So you can see our piston to wall clearance was built in this way. But what it's telling you is your gap factor is 4.5 thousandths. That is not actually your ring gap. What you need to do, per your application, is look on the other side of the sheet, and it's going to give you, well, this is where math comes in again. It's going to give you an example of what you need to do to figure out overall ring end gap. This is using a 30 over, like small block Chevy, since it's 4030. You take it times your factor. You look at your application from the other side. Ours is 4.5 thousandths. And then you get your minimum ring end gap. Same thing with the second ring. Well, we know that per the other side, we need to go 4.5 thousandths. We know our bore is 3940, and that comes out to 17.7 thousandths of an inch. Round up, 18 thousandths. Same thing with the second one. So these rings actually need to be set at 18 thousandths per our application of street towing. And if you're wondering why we're using street towing, well, this engine's going to be in a Jeep, seeing off-road, sometimes a load on it and all that. Not a drag engine, nothing like that. So that's the closest thing we had to what we needed for the application after talking to John. So yeah, guys, a little bit of math. You get your top and second ring one, and go from there. Next step, well, that's pretty simple. Let's check that out. All right, so the next step, what you need to do is get your piston rings here. And these are UEM. They came with the actual kit when John ordered it. Made in the USA, quality product. Always reference the part number, because if you look here, that says 31910. It gives you the ring size. When you look this part number up, look at the last one. That means the 30 thousandths, so it's the 3940s. So what you're going to do is you're going to open this up. John's got it all nice and taped for us, so I'm going to have to get that cut. And so, pretty simple, guys. There's 3 different styles of rings on here. You're only file fitting 2 of the rings because you have your oil rings, which you never do anything with on that. It does have some instructions with that, which I'm going to hand to Jimmy. So you have your second ring, and you have your top ring.
There's your first ring. It's got a pip mark on it right there. A little punch mark.
You see, if you look closely, what Jimmy was just talking about, right there and right there, that designates what goes towards the top of the piston.
Probably.
So what you're going to want to do, guys, is you're going to want to set your rings out nice and neat.
And according to their instruction sheet, some of them actually say top.
Yes.
T-O-P.
So they do have instructions with that, which is nice. So you're going to have your rings laid out in order. And what you're going to end up doing is just making sure they're all there. You're going to count them. And you got your oil rings. And we'll go over assembling these here in a minute. But basically what you want to do is just identify that you have all your rings and they're labeled right. And kind of read the instructions. It's really not that hard. You just want to make sure you have all your rings. And make sure you got your orientation correct. So what we're going to do for the second part, we'll show you in a second. All right. Well, the next step after you determine you got your instructions, go over that, make sure you got all your rings, know the orientation of them. Before we get doing any measuring and filing of the first and second ring, what Jimmy has taught me, what he's going to explain, is actually putting the oil rings on first. They don't get file fit, they just go on there. But there is a proper way to do that. So what I'm going to have Jimmy do is show you how to put them on, but also explain of why we do this.
Well, all your piston rings have a brake spot in them. So you just kind of spread it out, roll it around the piston, and you put the brake over top of the wrist pin. That way it's not going in and out as the cylinder taper or gets worn over the years and tapers. Now, next step, you put the bottom expander ring on and put your thumb over here on the brake spot so you don't push it apart. And then you work this down around to the bottom of the oil ring. I usually turn it. And I turn the brake spot over to the other side of the wrist pin. Now it gives me a clean shot over here to go. And then I do this. Put the top ring on. Then you want to make sure you kind of orientate them. I pull them around and I'll put like one on this corner, one on this corner. Because over the years, some people seem to think the rings move. I don't know. I'm never in a cylinder when it's going up and down, but I'm assuming it probably is. And of course, nobody ever marks them when they first put them on, so you don't know if they move or not. So, but we're going to assemble all the pistons like this, first with the oil rings. Then we're going to do the second ring after we file fit them, if necessary. And then we'll put them on as we go. And when we're done, all the pistons will be ready to install.
And real quick like that, what you do, if you notice, we still have everything marked and the cylinders are marked. So we fit these per cylinder on the engine block. So you're going to have to do that with rings too, but we're going to explain that later on. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and assemble all the oil rings on there, put them back there, and start on the next step. All right, so what you see is we actually have all the oil rings on these and they're laid out. Now remember, everything is labeled because we did fit every piston to each hole that we machined. And you have to fit every ring to each piston for the hole that you machined. So if you look on the block, we still have it labeled 2468, 1357. So the next step is we need to fit the second ring. Reason being, so if you look here, you start here and you start here because you can't put rings over rings. So you always start at the bottom. So the next one is we're going to start with the second one. Mind you guys, on the vise, you don't need a whole lot of clamping pressure, and you always want to have a rag in between there so you don't mar anything up. With that, guys, we're going to show you how to actually measure for the second ring. All right, so the next step is, since we're starting with cylinder number one, piston mark number one, is you actually have to put the ring in cylinder number one. And it's got to be squared up. And Jimmy's got his method of using a square. I actually brought this cool little tool here today. I bought off Amazon. It's adjustable for the cylinder walls. You'll see how it works. But the tool you need on this, besides the file piece...
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Jimmy's going to give it a try. He might actually go back to his own way. So the first step of this is you actually put the piston ring in the cylinder. And it's actually got to be squared up. We'll see what Jimmy thinks of this handy-dandy...
It normally goes down about an inch. They suggest push it an inch in the cylinder wall. What you do is you stick this thing in the cylinder and you bring out these three I don't know, studs, pushers, whatever. And that way, of course, this is flush or flat. You push it down against the cylinder. It also then straddle the gap in it, and all you have to do is push it down in the cylinder. You can also use a flat top piston. That's why I normally do it.
I'm going to move the camera real quick.
And you are not going to believe this.
We're going to grab the...
You can tell by the feel of the feeler gauge. I'm going to check it just to make sure.
So what Jimmy's talking about now is if you look inside there, you see the ring gap. And all he's doing is taking a feeler gauge. If you look right there, there's the gap right there. So what you're going to do is measure that gap.
That's too tight.
It's too tight.
And we're calling for 18.
We have our measurements written down, so we know we need 18 thousandths. So all he's doing is going through his feeler gauge and finding the correct one to see where we're at.
But I always pull out 2 sizes bigger than what it's supposed to be, because who cares if it's undersized, you can always make it bigger. But if it's oversized, you can't shrink it. So that's 18. It feels good. 19 drags a lot, and 20 I can only get it partially the way in there. So we're going to call this good at 18. Believe it or not, that's exactly what we want. I don't know if that's luck or good machine work.
But you're going to actually check every single one. Yes, we got lucky on this one, but you know what, guys? That's not always going to happen. Jimmy and I has always had to file them. Just check your ring gap. So we're actually going to call that one good, and we're going to show you then on how to put it on the piston. All right, so we got lucky on that. That's really never happened. What Jimmy is doing, what our system that he's taught me, so you don't get rings mixed up, after you file fit or check for ring gap, you automatically put it on the piston. That way you don't get anything mixed up. So if you look at what he did is he twisted that ring to get it started, and he's slowly going over. So you can see he started it right. He started it on one side, and what he's now doing is pushing on the other side. So you can see he started it here already in the groove, and he's trying to get it now over the groove. You got to be careful because you can actually break these. Even though they are, quote unquote, a form of metal, they are somewhat fragile. So he's getting it down in the second groove.
There it is.
And there you go. So,
and I always turn the gap on the second ring the opposite side of the wrist pin, because the oil ring was over here, so the second ring's there, then the first ring, the gap will be over here. So nothing's lined up. It just makes it so you don't have a better chance of not having compression loss.
So yeah, and we'll explain that at the end of the video when we get it done and show you. We'll show you actual ring orientation. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the second one, guys, or the top ring, sorry, and you're going to measure it in the same cylinder. I'll be right back. All right, so we're back. So we now have the top ring, and Jimmy's doing the same thing, guys. He's actually just putting that in the hole of the cylinder that it corresponds to with the piston that it corresponds to. And he's going to take this tool, and he's going to press that down in there. Make sure it's flush. You want it flush on the ring gap end for sure. Otherwise, you'll get an improper measurement. So he's going to take his feeler gauge.
And I've lost the other two.
And he is going to check what the ring gap is. Now, mind you, always check your paperwork. We already did our math on this. We do know this is supposed to be 18 thousandths.
This is going to come in at 19.
Come on.
The top ring is going to come in at 19 thousandths, which is fine. It's only 1 thousandth. I mean, you're kind of stuck. You can't really change it. So, unless you got file to fit rings, but the customer did not give us file to fit rings. But this will work. 1 thousandth is not going to make you or break you.
And if you do think it could make or break you, what you can do, and that does talk minimum ring gap. What you can do, oh, sorry, wrong paperwork. You can actually go back to your paperwork and take a look. It does talk about minimum gap for that. So when you flip your paperwork over, you're looking at, we're at the 4.5 thousandths. You do the math, you're still not going to be put into the next category. So a thousandths different on that is not going to make or break you. If it's more than a thousandths, you might want to look at your paperwork or call the manufacturer on that.
But this piston ring, the one I'm putting on now, is on top. It's closer to the fire in the cylinder. The second ring got some shrouding around it because this is taking the brunt of the heat, the number one ring, the top ring. So it'll get hotter, so if it's got an extra thousandths worth of clearance, fine, because it may grow a little more, like close up the end gap.
So yeah, that's where we're at with that. Jimmy's going to put it on. I'll go show you that in a second. So the process is the same with that, guys, is you're going to start it. You're going to start it here, like what you're going to put it in the groove first, and then like just with the second one, you're going to put it over and work your way down. Like I said, just be careful. But what we're going to do at the end of this video is we're going to explain ring orientation. So what we're going to do is we're going to call piston cylinder number 1 complete and set that aside and go to number 2. And you know what? I'm not going to show you every one. I'll time lapse it. But when we get to a point where we're actually going to, if we need to, actually file the rings, we'll show that in detail. Be right back.
Okay, as you've seen earlier how I was putting the piston ring orientation, the end gaps on the expander ring, kind of put it this corner of the piston, and the middle of the oil ring, the actual oil ring itself, we try to put it somewhere close to the wrist pin. Now the second ring, I put it over the wrist pin. The top ring, I put it over the wrist pin. The top ring takes the brunt of the heat. Now in this engine we're using double moly, which is chrome moly piston rings. When double moly, it means moly top, moly second. And it's going to be in a Jeep. It's going to have it's all fuel injected and all that stuff. And it's got a towing cam. The guy's going to use it to tow. I don't know what he's going to tow it with. Or I mean tow behind it, I meant to say. But we're just trying to give this thing extra horsepower. And it went from 318 cubic inches to 392 cubic inches. And it's just, when you assemble something, I don't care whether it's a bone stock engine or even a lawnmower, I still put the ring orientation the same way. In a race car, stock engine, I've even rebuilt farm tractor engines, and it goes the same every time. So, and we use good quality pistons. We're using the Icon, or he bought the Icon pistons, which is actually a forged piston. And we're using the Eagle crankshaft kit, which changes the cube, and it's 30 overbore, so it's going from 318 to 392, as I just said. Plus, he's got some kind of a larger port, bigger valves, better flowing cylinder heads for it too. And with the roller cam in it, which of course I had a roller cam from the factory, but that's what he wanted to keep a roller. But now it's a Howard's roller cam and Howard's lifters. we seem to like a lot of that. We kind of steered him towards, well, we did steer him to the Howard stuff. But it'll make a nice engine, a nice towing engine for him. And if he wants to stand on the throttle and pass somebody on the way to work, that'd be fine too. He'll have a little extra zip in that old Jeep. So, thanks for watching.
All right, well, that's it, guys. We actually got lucky. Everything except that one came out at 18 thousandths. Must be our lucky day. I think Jimmy and I need to go get a lottery ticket. Measured everything. Everything's good to go. Like I said, guys, you just want to do your math per your application, per the instructions on the pistons. Always make sure your dot's up. Get your ring orientation correct. Just pay attention on your measuring. You always want to double check them. Do it right. Do it the first time. Always make sure you're doing it the right hole. Get them all done. With that, guys, I didn't show you any filing. I do have another video on that in the engine playlist that Jimmy shows on how to do that. But the next time you see this engine, hopefully we'll be assembling this 390 cubic inch small block stroker. So with that, guys, hope you learned something. Leave a comment if you have any questions. Jimmy and I will answer them. See you later.